The Savannah River Site continues to focus on its decades-long mission to invest in our planet this Earth Day, which is observed globally on April 22nd. Savannah River Site will also be celebrating Earth Day with a booth at the Safety Expo on April 27th and 28th. For decades, SRS has served as a leader in the Department of Energy complex in environmental stewardship, including the research and development of cutting-edge technologies that are achieving environmental restoration at the site and across the United States and abroad. Here today to talk to us about how SRS invests in our planet are leaders from around the site. So Mike, I want to begin with you. First of all, tell me what it means to you personally to invest in our planet.
Well, I typically think about this in terms of my kids and their kids and who's coming behind us, because all the activities that we're involved in today on the site, all the work we do for cleanup missions, whether it's the nuclear waste, the volatile chemicals, the spent nuclear fuel that we process, were all generated by people who preceded us. And then we're implementing plans to clean that material up. And so whatever we do today, where we're the decision makers, we got to be making intelligent decisions so that we don't leave behind for future generations material that they have to clean up because we didn't really think the problem through. Which is not to say that our predecessors didn't think the problem through, but we have the benefit of a lot of technology that they did not have that enables us to do our job. But they did a fantastic job of setting it up and keeping the material contained to where we could handle it today. And now with that lesson learned, we need to think about the future and how we invest today so that the cleanup jobs that our future generations have to do are even easier.
Thank you. So Stuart, building on what Mike just said, how do you think SRS is building on that legacy of investing in our planet?
Yeah, so Amy, I've just had a great opportunity in my career to be able to work on both sides of the equation that I'm about to talk about. So for the past 30 years or so, I've been working on cleanup, environmental remediation, decontamination and decommissioning, cleaning up the old facilities from our past legacy of nuclear weapons production. And at the same time, now I'm able to then look over, and about half of the business that I conduct today is on the nuclear weapons side of our enterprise. And so at the same time that I'm looking forward to what's the long-term enduring mission for the site, I'm cleaning up some of the legacy from prior missions there on the site. And so as a company, we're able to clean up and make way for the next generation of weapons production activities that are going to be conducted at the Savannah River Site. Those wouldn't be possible if we weren't investing in the cleanup activities there at the site. We'd be sitting there on top of that legacy and having to deal with that legacy for a long time to come. So it's really great to be on both sides of that equation, cleaning up and then looking forward into the long-term missions that will enable us to perform.
Thank you. And so building on that and the weapons production activities, I'm going to turn to you, Chelsea, and ask you about the mission of the NNSA and how does investing in our planet fit in NNSA's mission?
Well, the NNSA takes its environmental stewardship responsibilities seriously. In carrying out its mission, employing conservation and sustainable practices are an integral part of protecting the environment for our future generations.
Thank you. So Dave, I want to switch over to you now and ask you that same question. How does investing in our planet fit with your company's missions?
So Mike alluded to this a little bit earlier. So the regulator calls the high-level waste in South Carolina at Savannah River Site the greatest environmental risk in the state. And I would argue in the southeastern United States and maybe in the country. So it didn't start out that way relative to what was at Savannah River Site prior to 1950. Other than uranium having radioactivity, what's in the ground today is much more complex, much more higher in risk, much more non-friendly when it comes to environment. So our job is to get it out, get it immobilized, get that area returned back to something more to what it was before the mission actually started here. To the point where, in fact, if you wanted to build a home next to F Tank Farm, put a house there, drill a well, the water would be safe to drink. So that's our end objective here over the next 15 years. So it's all about cleaning up the environment, returning it to normal.
That's good. Thank you. And so I'm going to turn to you now, Sue, and thinking about the lab and BSRA's commitment to the environment and, of course, the technologies. Tell us a little bit about what you believe the lab's role is.
Absolutely. Thank you, Amy. So the Savannah River National Lab is one of the Energy Department's 17 national labs across the nation. And this complex of national labs works to tackle critical scientific challenges of our time. And that includes combating climate change by discovering new sources of energy and improving the climate impacts of our current energy sources. I'm proud to be working with the men and women of the Savannah River National Lab in securing our nation's energy future. And I could give many examples of this, but I would focus maybe on 3 at the moment. One is we're currently working with other site contractors to try to enable alternative energy sources like solar. Another is we're making investments in trying to create the foundation to enable hydrogen as an energy source for the southeastern United States as well as the nation. And then as we lean very far into the future, we're thinking about fusion energy as an alternative that will take a lot of investment and a lot of innovation to bring to the grid. And so the Savannah River National Lab works in many of these different areas to try to enable and transition to a new energy future.
Thank you. So now I'm going to turn to Dr. Rhodes, Vanessa. When I think about environment and environmental protection at Savannah River Site, I naturally think about your organizations, the Forest Service and the Ecology Laboratory. I kind of feel like everything that we do with our missions really you guys are the linchpin to me in our environmental monitoring, our environmental program. So Dr. Rhodes, let me start with you. And as you think about that and the contributions that you guys are making to the site, it's been 70 years. And just tell us about some of the significant accomplishments that you believe the Ecology Lab has made.
Well, thanks, Amy. Yeah, it's interesting listening to the various answers. Because one, you have to think about the site as a whole, right? I mean, as a group, all the organizations that have come before us and the ones that are here now have all worked to achieve those things we're talking about, the cleanup mission, right? Making it better for the next generation. The Ecology Lab, as a land-grant university partner, right, with UGA, we really have multiple missions, but the one I think is most important to what you're talking about, and when I think about what I'm most proud of that our lab has accomplished, it comes in the education realm. So everything that we do in the community for environmental education spreads the essence of what we really think about on Earth Day every single day throughout the year. And then you add that to the undergraduate experiential learning and the thousands of students that have come through and gotten a real feel for the kinds of problems, the real world problems and the real world solutions that occur here on the site. We are putting them forth as ambassadors to the rest of the country and the world. And then you have the graduate students who come here and work on problems that are very intractable, things that are difficult to solve, and then we help the other folks here on site solve those problems in a way that gives us that ecological sustainability that we're really looking for.
Thank you. So Vanessa, what about you?
Well, Amy, I am extremely proud to be a part of an organization that has been here on the site for 70 years. USDA Forest Service manages the natural resources of about 170,000 acres here on Savannah River Site, doing everything from restoring and maintaining a healthy forest that supports wildlife, which includes several threatened and endangered species, providing clean water. We also work to reduce the wildfire threat here on site. We do forest research. And we also provide a sustainable source of forest product that helps support the local economy.
Thank you. So, Mark, I'm going to turn to you now. And I think about, as I was mentioning, that we often think about the Forest Service and the Ecology Lab when we're talking about the environment. And when I think about security, I think guards, gates, and guns. I don't often think about the environment. But tell us what you're most proud of as far as your company and your investing in plan.
Okay, I sure will. You know, as a protected forest contractor, we don't have the environmental challenges that Stuart or Dave have, but we do have those challenges. I'm very proud of the fact that we've been able to sustain ISO 14001 Environmental Management System certification since 2009. So that demonstrates to me that our employees, they're committed to protecting their environment. We're meeting our goals and objectives as laid out in our plans, and they always seek continuous improvement as well. We also, although we don't have the same environmental challenges as operations contractors, we do successfully recycle, hundreds of batteries each year, a lot of used oil, a lot of used tires, scrap metal, and we also make sure that any type of waste that we utilize in our protected forest operations are properly eliminated, such as legacy chemicals or lead. Our live fire training ranges, we'll fire up to 500,000 rounds of live ammunition a year. So making sure that we're properly cleaning weapons in the right manner, and disposing of that lead properly is a very big concern to us. But our employees work very hard to achieve that. We have one small environmental management section that really does a great job for us, and my hat's off to Carl Fennessy, who does that work for us.
Thank you. So that is actually the perfect segue into the next question that's really for all of you. And you mentioned that your employees are very committed to this. And so tell us, any of you guys, what you're doing personally and professionally, whether it be big or small, something that you're doing personally or that your employees might be doing personally to invest in our planet. I see you shaking your head. Sue, you want to take that first?
Sure, I'll start. Be glad to do that. I think the biggest professional thing that I try to do in my position at the Savannah River Site is to really think about investing in our planet as we invest in our people. Our people, our workforce, they're our future. And so anything we can do collectively as a team, from the education all the way up through the entry into the workforce, is really going to help us deal with this race that we are running in climate change. It sometimes feels like this climate emergency is a race that we might be losing, but I'm very optimistic about our future because of the people in our community and their commitment. And so I think we can win this race. We really have to think about how we use that same spirit of innovation and technology that led us into the industrial age and led to the creation of things like the Savannah River Site, and start to apply that into this energy transition, move all of us into making smart and informed energy choices in our daily lives. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Go ahead, Stuart.
So I can't resist. We've got all kinds of policies and procedures that we employ at the site. So rather than talking professional, I'll talk personal. So there's a couple things that I would share with you that I do at my house to protect the planet and make sure that we're doing the right thing. One is I use solar to heat my swimming pool. So I've got a swimming pool in the backyard for the grandkids, and I'm using solar to make sure I heat that. I got lots of friends that have gas heaters for their pools, and I've got a solar heater on it. So that's one thing. Second thing is, at my location in the county, I don't have recycling pickup. I have garbage pickup, but I don't have recycling pickup. So I take all of my recycling and collect it all together and take it to the drop spots so that we can take all that recycling and get it back into the recycling system versus just throwing it away in the garbage. I could throw it all in the garbage bin, and that would be real easy because then I wouldn't have to go anywhere. I throw it all in the back of my truck, take it over to the local drop-off location, which just makes me feel better about them, especially with all the cardboard that's coming to the house these days. Everything's coming by UPS from Amazon, it seems like. So I want to make sure that cardboard doesn't get into the landfills if I can help it.
I'll give out two. So we First one applies both professionally and personally, and that is, it's so easy personally to go to Costco or Sam's and buy in bulk. But when you buy things that have an expiration date, you might not get to use all of those before it's time. So we stopped buying in bulk, like we did, in 2020 when COVID hit and you stocked up on things. Same thing in the workplace. We use a lot of chemicals, a lot of raw materials that have expiration dates. So don't buy what's not going to match the production rate that we have. Then personally, during COVID now, because it was hard to get people to come to your house to work on anything, before that I was a pitch it, don't fix it. Now I'm a fix it, don't pitch it. Not only for cost savings, but also for it prevents things going to landfill that don't need to go there. So that's kind of been the learning for us to help the planet. So, thanks.
I'll share a couple of other personal ones.
Sure.
Rather than disposing of items, I typically try to see if I can donate them first. I also use LED bulbs in my home, and then I routinely use reusable shopping bags.
Yeah, so professionally, the biggest thing that I have to figure out on a daily basis, my only real job is to get the resources so all these people can do their work. But my father always asks me and he's 90, how I'm using his tax dollars, to which I respond, Dad, you don't really pay any taxes anymore, but okay. But my job is to use those as efficiently as possible because we have to spread them as far as we can. So with the help of the lab, most of our work for removing volatile chemicals now is done with systems that you install, and then you can essentially walk away from them, and they work by themselves without any power, heat. We just monitor to make sure they're working. And so they're all take care of themselves without adding any energy requirements to the operation. And whether we're just figuring out how we can expedite the use of H Canyon so that we can process more fuel while we have that canyon for the same dollars that we were processing very little fuel in the past. And of course, over in liquid waste, we're going to figure out how to do that mission within the flat budget, that we have. We're going to figure out how to do that mission over the next 15 years and get it all done. So, because the farther we can spread those dollars, the more effect we can have on all the things that we do in the environment. And so that's our job. My main thing is to make sure we're being as efficient as we can.
I'll add. So I think when you think personally, I think there are a lot of things people do and can do. And I think a lot of them have been mentioned, right? Recycling, fuel efficient appliances, right? Fuel efficient vehicles and ride shares and all those types of things. But I think professionally, one of the things that I think I have an obligation to do, and the folks that work for me as well, is in this politicized environment, trying to bring folks reasonable arguments for climate literacy is a big challenge for all of us, and not to get lost in the arguments, but to actually provide the science, right, and provide it in a way that people can see, because all our futures depend on it. And it's fine and dandy to have differing opinions, but ultimately we need everybody to understand what the risks are. And so I think that's the biggest thing professionally for me.
Thank you.
And Amy, for me, just to piggyback on what you said, I think it's important to participate in conservation education. For me, with my younger kids, it's important that they understand what our impacts on the environment could be. That saying, knowledge is power. So when they know better, they tend to do better. Simple as turning the lights off when you leave a room. Don't allow the water to run, stuff like that. So even at a younger age, you can instill in them good conservation education. So
I think that's a good point. And you made me think of a personal story. And I've shared this with some of you, but when I was a kid, I was going somewhere with my mom, and I rolled the window down and threw something out the car window. And she stopped the car. I had to go back and pick it up, and I brought it back to the car, and she said, "The world is not your trash can." And I was just a little kid, but that has stuck with me my entire life. And so it absolutely is that point. We instill that in our children. It was instilled in me 50 years ago, and here we are talking about it today, so how important it is. So in closing, I just want to thank all of you guys, all the SRS leaders that took the time to talk to us today about investing in our planet. I want to remind all of our employees to stop by the Earth Day booth that we're going to have at the Safety Expo on April 27th and 28th. And all of you, remember to do your part to invest in our planet this Earth Day. Thank you.